One of the problems of living in the countryside in Lincolnshire is that the roads are so very long, with very few turning places if you go wrong. And I don't have sat-nav. Now, after I'd lived in Lincolnshire for a few weeks, I went back to visit a friend in Wiltshire, and driving back to Sutton St James very late that night, I got to a junction. I followed the signpost to the village, but I ended up miles away. For unbeknown to me, the young farmers had had some fun with the signposts earlier that evening. So signposts can be very comforting when you don't know where you are, but they can also be very confusing if they're messed around with, or if you can't interpret them properly. A signpost pointing straight ahead when the junction is Y-shaped is no help at all. Even more worrying is the sign, roughly painted on a piece of wood and stuck in the roadside verge, telling you that the festival is that way, down a bumpy track. It's not official, so can you trust it? John the Baptist is a signpost, a confusing, rough-looking signpost, saying things that people did not understand, but offering something that could be amazing and wonderful if only people followed the correct path. And with the benefit of 2,000 years of history, we can see exactly where he's pointing us. But back then he was viewed by some with reverence, by others with confusion, and by yet others suspicion. Who was this man? Well, technically, he should have been a priest. John's father was Zachariah, a priest from the tribe of Levi and a direct descendant of Aaron, the brother of Moses. John had the pedigree to impress, and in the eyes of the Jewish authorities he could only be a priest. So they were very confused about this man who was behaving in a very unpriest-like manner. "So, John, are you our Messiah?" asked the priests. The Jews had long waited for their Messiah, and indeed some of John's followers were sure that he was the Messiah. But the trouble was, no one was really sure of what the Messiah would be like. Some hoped for a bringer of peace, others hoped for a great warrior like King David, and yet others thought that he would be a great judge whose example would bring about a new age of righteousness and justice. So, not knowing what to expect, and meeting this man of great charisma who spoke some very tough words, the people were curious. If he wasn't the Messiah, who was he? Could he be trusted? There were plenty of people around back then who claimed to be the Messiah. They caused rebellions and a lot of problems for the Jewish authorities, so they were quickly discredited. Yet here was John saying emphatically, "No, I am not." "Okay, so if you're not the Messiah, are you Elijah?" Well, he looked like the prophet Elijah. He wore the same type of clothing. The Gospel of Matthew described John as clothed in camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist, and his food was locusts and wild honey. And the Jewish people were expecting Elijah to return to put things right before the Messiah came. And here was John looking the part and saying, "Make the path straight for the coming of the Lord." The other person that the Jews expected before the coming of the Messiah was a great prophet, raised from their own people who they knew they had to take notice of. This had been known about from the book of Deuteronomy. So once again here was a sign that appeared to be genuine. Why then was John denying all of this? Was he a false prophet? Well, that would have got him in big trouble with the Sanhedrin, whose job it was to expose and deal with false prophets, because of the problems that again they caused the Jewish authorities. Okay, so you're not the Messiah, you're not Elijah, and you're not the prophet. Who are you? I am the voice crying out of the wilderness. Well, a signpost in the wilderness is both necessary and very welcome. John just refused to be the signpost they were expecting. Like the rough painted sign on the side of the road that sends you down a bumpy track with the promise of great things at the end, he was a preacher who pointed the way to the Lord. He was the nobody who warned of the coming. Make ready, make those roads straight and smooth, for the King is coming. 2,000 years later, we have the promise of the second coming of Christ. We've had that hope for 2,000 years, and we can trust that it will happen again. It happened before, and we are told that Christ will come again. And we reinforce that faith in our Eucharistic prayers. Christ has died, Christ has risen, Christ will come again. Yet the roads are still bumpy and the ways are not smooth. And plenty of people would describe their lives as a rocky road. The burdens they carry so heavy that every step they take is painful and difficult. Life is too tough to make any progress. What then are we to do? Well, we have the example of the life and work of Jesus. We don't have to steamroller the difficulties flat, but with love we can make life less painful and difficult. We can help to share the burdens that people carry. We can sit beside them when they fall and comfort them. And we can offer love and support and companionship on the journey. And as we walk together towards Christ, so the road seems shorter and less troublesome. It will be a road well travelled, with a wonderful destination to look forward to and to rejoice in. Let us travel that road together with those who do not yet know the love of Christ and all that he offers us. Father of all, we give you thanks and praise that when we were still far off, you met us in your Son and brought us home. Amen.